Does anyone have a question?
Stuart, I have a question. Bob Sink.
Yes, Bob.
This period between Christmas and the New Year's, it feels many times like a bardo realm. How best to navigate during this time?
Bob, I'm going through the exact same thing, and how I navigate it is by just staying as simple as possible and not getting involved in projects, nothing. I just am being very simple about it and let it pass. Yeah, this end of the year is, for me, always one of the hardest times. Yeah. All cycle coming to an end, new cycle is going to be born. And you have to let go. You have to let go in such a profound way that you can survive the kind of energy that's in the atmosphere now. So that's what I suggest. Just be simple about your life. Don't get involved in complicated. Make believe as Mercury is now in retrograde. Don't get involved in complicated projects. Don't get, and it'll pass. After the first of the year, there's always a resurgence of energy, a renewal of life. And we're getting pretty close to that. So I just suggest being simple about everything. I mean, the image of Rudy stringing beads, that's the perfect image, doing the least he had to do in order to survive what is going on in his spiritual life. So yes, it's a very hard time. I can understand perfectly the question you ask because I'm going through it. I thought by going away before it would, but it didn't. It didn't change anything. It's the same thing it's been every year. The other hard time I have really is between Rudy's birthday and his samadhi. That's always a very difficult period of the year for me, those 3 weeks. Be simple. Don't get involved in massive projects. Put it off for 5 days, 6 days. The energy is going to change. Does anyone else have a question?
I have a question, Stuart, Chris. I had a very similar question, and it is just that it feels like all kinds of things have to die within me. And so your answer, being simple about it, will help that process, won't it?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Death and transfiguration.
Does anyone else have a question about death and transfiguration?
Stuart, I have a question about the bardo. Can you explain it?
The bardo?
Yes. I think I know what it is, but I would love it if you would explain it.
The bardo is kind of a state of existence that exists between lifetimes. And, in Tibetan Buddhism, if somebody is ready to leave the world, they prepare them for entering the bardo. They do all kinds of rituals and, stuff like that to prepare people to go into the bardo. And the bardo is kind of like a vacation. You go there and you get trained to come into your next lifetime so that you bring everything in from this lifetime. All the things you've learned, you bring with you so that in your next lifetime, you reincarnate on a very high level. I mean, the bardo is, I mean, it's kind of like a circus of strange creatures also. I mean, I used to have a lot of Tibetan tonkas, bardo tonkas, and there were animals with human bodies and, I mean, all kinds of, mythological type stuff that they would reproduce that that exists in the bardo playing. And it's all about transformation, the animal in us becoming human, it's all about transformation.
Mutations, kind of? Is it like a mutation, transformation mutation?
I don't know if it's a mutation, but it's like the old gets transformed into something that is rebirth. It's like death and rebirth. That's really what it's about. I mean, I've spoken about it before. I used to have a student named Eleanor Olson. I talked about her. She used to be a curator at the Newark Museum. And she's kind of the one who brought Tibetan art to the West. And she would come into my gallery all the time, and I would do healing work with her. And, when I first came back to New York, I knew her because she used to study with Rudy. She told me that she had inoperable cancer. So I started doing healing work with her. She would come in at least twice a week, and the cancer went into remission. And that went on for about a year and a half. And then she came to me one day and said, Stuart, she was at that time about 79 years old, 80 years old. She said, I don't have the energy to do it anymore, Stuart. I am so tired. And she told me she wanted to leave, basically is what she said to me. So I just reversed the process. Instead of doing healing work that would resurrect her life, I started doing preparation work for her to go to the bardo. And we would do this twice a week. And the incredible thing about that is I was learning what the bardo was. I knew about it because I had knowledge of Tibetan Buddhism, but I was learning of it as an experiential thing. And I kept working and drawing her soul into that plane of consciousness and preparing her to enter it. And it was amazing. This went on for about 6 months. And then she went into a kind of a quasi-coma. And I'll never forget, I've told this story before, but it's a great story. I'll never forget sitting with her in her bedroom. I was the only one they would allow into her bedroom. And she was curled up in a fetal position. And, I sat there and I started doing a really deep meditation with her. And then she came out of this fetal position. She sat up in the bed and she said, thank you. Went back into the fetal position. It's the last thing she ever said. Never forget it. It was one of the most profoundly moving experiences of my life. But it was all based upon, first of all, getting rid of the cancer. Then it was based upon, opening that channel to the bardo plane where she would be prepared to go there. So they would prepare whatever energies or they would prepare her for her next incarnation. Part of the evolutionary process, it's like taking a 40-day vacation. Really, from all the crap that we have to deal with in life, getting prepared to come back into, grow, learning how to use whatever it is we have to learn here to continue the growth process.
I have another question on that. Can you go into the bardo many times then? So you enter into the bardo, you come out the other side, and then another cycle ends, and then you go into the bardo again?
Until you finally get it.
Mm-hmm.
Why you're born, what you have to do here, and you do the work to transform the suffering, the pain, the difficulty of living into a spiritual life. And then you don't go to the bardo anymore. You're free. You have done your work here. But if you don't do it, then these spirits prepare you for the next incarnation until you finally learn what this is all about. And what is it all about? Honestly, it's about transforming suffering into joy and love. Learning to be a happy person. That's what this is about. Becoming a child of God with your heart open, love inside you, compassion, and living here as a servant of God. Then there's no more bardo. You learned what you're here to learn. The soul doesn't stop evolving. Then there's some other plane they send you to, that's something else you got to learn, The soul of a human being doesn't stop evolving. It continues to evolve until it is absolutely nothing, which is just the grace of God. It has become one with everything in the universe.
Okay, here's another question regarding that. So, in this particular lifetime, do you go through several bardos until you die?
No. In this particular lifetime, you learn how to work on yourself so that your soul evolves. And if you go deep enough inside and work in enough depth inside, that ananda, that bhakti, that love becomes so, integrated with your inner life that, you look at somebody like that and they're like a twinkle, like a star, there's so much love and joy coming out of them. That's basically what it's about. Learning this. It's what Rudy taught. It's what developing the chakra system is all about. It's what Kundalini Yoga is all about. It's what Tantra is all about. It's what Bhakti Yoga is all. It's what all inner growth is about. Is transformation of, the difficulties and sufferings of life into an open heart. It's like the title of my book, A Lotus Flower in Muddy Waters. You become a lotus flower growing out of muddy water. Then there's no more bardo.
What is bardo? How do you spell bardo?
B-A-R-D-O.
Say again.
B-A-R-D-O.
B-A-R-D-O.
Yeah, just put it in Google. You'll get 1,000 things that'll come up.
B-A-R-D-O.
Yes.
B-A-R-D-O.
Thank you, Stuart.
You're welcome. Does anyone else have a question? It's a good time to really work with this, because the cycle of the coming of the end of the year, and in many ways, it's like a bardo experience. It's very difficult. It's, it requires an incredible inner stamina, and it requires incredible inner simplicity to be able to deal with this kind of energy. And that's really a major element in what I teach, is getting that kind of simplicity, discovering that really inside ourselves, we are nothing. And we don't have to manufacture ego images of ourselves and who we think we are and some bullshit charisma, personality. It's like what Ramana Maharshi, the students would come to me and say, just ask yourself the question, who am I? And as you go through all of your masks, ultimately you come to the realization, I'm nothing. Then you get it, you got it. But it has to be living experience. It can't be just something in your, I'm nothing. It doesn't amount to anything, but if it's living experience, you've evolved to where the chakra system has really, broken down every aspect of yourself. And all that's left is you being a child of God. This is not easy to do, but it's the ultimate goal, I think, of every human being, of every living species. The ultimate attainment of nothingness. And nothingness just means we're free of ourselves. That's it. Doesn't mean life becomes nothing. We're free of ourselves, and then all that spirit can flow through, and it guides us through life. Does anyone else have a question? Okay. Thank you. God bless you all for being here, for being part of this. I just have a lot of gratitude because, it's just a matter of using whatever we're sent, whatever the universe provides, to truly do that work inside, to attain a state of nothingness. And it's like that Japanese Zen saying, before enlightenment, carrying water and plowing the fields. After enlightenment, carrying water and plowing the fields. Nothing in the world changes except our inner state of being. That's what changes. So we don't lose our families, our friends, our jobs, the things that we've attained in life. Yes, but we're free of them, because we have changed inside ourselves. That's where the change takes place. It's carrying water before and after. I'm carrying water and plowing the fields. Before and after, I'm married with a family, except I see everyone differently. And I have this profound, unconditional love for each and every person in my life, for myself. Okay, if there are no more questions, then there'll be a class on Wednesday. God bless you all. Thank you. And I'm looking forward to seeing everybody. Thank you.
Thank you, Stuart.
Thank you, Stuart.
Stuart.
Good night.
I thank you all. Thank you. You all are my teacher. You know that, don't you? Don't let it go to your head.